Good morning. I'm just going to go through, continue with my series on the 1963-64 US Chess Championships, where Bobby Fischer won all his 11 games. This is round number 7, and he's playing against William Addison. This is a truly beautiful game of chess that, in some ways, is almost beyond human understanding. And Fischer plays a couple of sparkling, difficult to understand, and just fantastic moves, and he manages to paralyze his opponent, create attack on both sides of the board, and pick off pawns to create a winning position. What's most impressive, the way he paralyzes his opponent, the way he parries the all his opponent's attacking chances, the way he creates attacks on both sides himself. Well, they're all very, very impressive. So you have to pick it for yourself what you think is most impressive. But let's just see. Let's enjoy. So e4, e5, knight f3, knight c6. Our old friend the Roy Lopez. This is the Morphy defense, asking the question to that bishop. Do you really want to take that knight? Incidentally, if the knight is ever taken, you go against the usual rule of taking towards the centre, and you take with the d pawn. This is to free the queen, so that if the knight then takes the pawn, you can come here with the queen and threaten the pawn on e4 and the knight at the same time, and then get your pawn back. So he doesn't take. This is called the Columbus variation, and the bishop is chased one more time. This is the Caro variation, and this is the Norwegian variation of the Roy Lopez opening Morphy defense Caro Norwegian variation. I just think it's fantastic that it's such a long, complicated name. And yeah, it has actually been played by our Norwegian hero, Magnus Carlsen, or at least played against him in the World Championship against Jan Nepomniachtchi. He played a lot of Roy Lopez, Jan Nepomniachtchi, and Carlsen, and I think Nepomniachtchi answered in this way a few times, or similar anyway. So Addison makes a break in the centre. This makes sense, if your opponent is building up pressure on the wings, the place to answer it is in the centre. And then this gives him the opportunity to develop his queen as well. Now, you or I might play knight here to chase the queen away, knowing that the queen can't come here. But then we'd be losing very quickly, because the queen can come here and threaten mate, and then it is defendable, but not nicely defendable. So Fischer plays knight to e7 first to stop the queen from coming to d5. Great stuff. So the pawn comes to c3, yeah, to give the bishop a retreat square, because black will soon be able to play d6, c5, and c4, trapping the bishop. So he gives his bishop a retreat square. But now that it's only defended by one pawn, Fischer takes and comes to b7 with his bishop to increase the pressure on the e4 pawn. The bishop comes to f4, probably looking at playing to g5, e5. Pawn comes to d5. Actually, if Addison takes, Fischer will take with the knight, and and threaten the bishop, defend the pawn at the same time. Yeah, that will work out just fine for him. And yeah, afterwards he can play pawn to c5 and chase the queen away. Once the knight has moved, the pawn is defended by the bishop on f8. So the pawn comes to f5, and Fischer plays bishop to c5 anyway. Yeah, the pawn is defended. He can play knight here or knight here if the pawn is taken, and create an attack on the queen. If he takes and he plays knight here, the queen has no retreat squares. Can't come to here or here, covered by the bishop. These retreat squares are covered by the bishop, and this square is covered by the pawn, and this square is covered by the bishop. This square is covered by the pawn. So he can't afford to take the pawn. Brilliant. So the knight comes to g6 to attack both this pawn and this pawn. Bishop retreats, and yeah, bishop comes to e7. He's finished with development, and he's ready to castle. You or I would castle here, but Fischer realizes that since there is no light squared bishop, then if he puts his knight on e6, a wonderful square, it can't be challenged. You can't challenge it with a knight here, because this square g5 is really well covered by the bishop and queen, and now will be covered by the knight. Yeah, it might be possible eventually to maneuver a knight to here, but it takes a long time to go two diagonal with a knight, and it takes a long time to go one forward with a knight, and there would be non-progressive moves which don't help with the development. So he castles, putting his rook on the square that one of the knights would have to use to try to get to e4 to challenge, f4 to challenge this knight. Knight comes to e6, and dominating position in the centre. The rook comes to d1, yeah, let's challenge some in the centre. There we go, the attack starts on the king side. As mentioned before, this square is really well defended, so why can't he just use it to push a pawn up? Addison says, yeah, you're not coming any further, and Fischer pushes another pawn up, strengthening his attack, and says, oh, do you know what, if I want to, I can play g4. And the rook comes to the open file, and the queen comes to b6, and Addison is now ready, Fischer is now ready to castle queenside. If he castles queenside, he can break up in the centre then. The knight comes to f1 for a better defensive square, and the pawn comes to d4. Again, if he takes, it's just going to be knight takes here. And yeah. But he could have castled, he didn't. The knight comes to f d2 so that Fischer can't take here and destroy the pawn structure. So, as he said before, he can insist that he plays the pawn to g4, and Addison goes past so that the file isn't broken open. But there's another aspect to playing to g4. Hinders this pawn from coming, or this knight from coming to f3. So when he plays c6, it is difficult for Addison to defend the pawn on g2, defend the mate threat. So Addison plays queen to e4, an adequate defence. Fischer castles queenside up. Fantastic waiting move. He doesn't really want to take the queen and allow either the knight or the rook to come to this fantastic square. You know, he'd rather the queen is paralysed there. So Addison doesn't like his queen being paralysed and takes. Fischer takes back, and the pawn comes to c4. And now a fantastic, mysterious, difficult to understand move from Fischer. He plays king to d7. It's a couple of reasons. It's partly so that there isn't a pin on this pawn, so that if the rook if he takes and he takes and the rook comes here and the pawn comes here, then if the rook is here, then this pawn, okay, the bishop's in the way, but you could force the bishop to move or get the bishop to move. It's partly a cautious defensive move aimed at strengthening his queen side. But there's another idea behind it. The idea is that he's going to come to g2 and e4, e5 with his knight, f5 even, with his knight. But it might be possible for that knight to be attacked at some point in time. And so he wants to be able to defend that knight, so he wants to be able to come to e6 with the king, where that king will stop all counter play from his opponent. A fantastic conception. So Addison realises he can't do anything in the centre, and he goes to the wings and attacks the only undefended pawn. Fischer defends that pawn, and the knight comes to e4. Fischer takes, and then, as advertised, he's heading for f5, a fantastic square. He comes to f5, doubling up an attack on the h4 pawn. Rook comes to e6, f4, and now the king comes to e6. Defends the knight, but also defends this pawn, so that if there is a swap here, this pawn isn't lost. Fantastic. So the knight comes to d4, e4 even, a very good square, and he takes the pawn on c4. Pawn is taken back, and the rook comes to b8 to attack the pawn on b2. The rook comes to a2 to defend, and the rook comes to b4 where it's attacking the c4 pawn and still attacking the b2 pawn. So the b2 pawn's defended, c4 pawn isn't. He can't defend by pushing the pawn because it gets taken, so the knight retreats, and Fischer is attacking on both sides. And Addison doesn't really have any attacking moves. The knight takes the pawn, the bishop takes, and the bishop takes, and Fischer has won the first pawn that he wins. So he's now playing with 6 pawns against 5. The rook comes to d4, e4 even, because if they'd played something else, say they'd played the pawn here, then the bishop comes here, attacks the rook here, and when the rook moves out of the way, the knight falls. So he moves the rook out of the way first. But knight comes to g5 anyway. He's going to take that knight and then take this pawn. And so Addison pushes the pawn to block that, but he plays en passant check. Wait a minute. He strikes back with taking the pawn and threatening the knight. Maybe he now has time to defend this pawn in some other way. Nope, because Fischer gets a check, and then he takes the pawn. And now he's playing with 5 pawns against 3. And that's too much for Addison. He resigns now, and it's not at all premature. The rook might come to b2 and attack the pawn. He could then slowly march the b pawn here and double up. There are many ways to win more pawns. The rooks for Addison aren't coordinated. The knight is kind of stuck there, can't really go to a good square any it could come to h4, but then from h4 it can only come to f. It can only go back to f3, so can't really do much. Okay, he might be able to play knight to rook to h4, but then Fischer is just gonna win this pawn. So you know he has no effective play in this position, and yeah, there are some mate possibilities on a1. If he wins this pawn, then he's always if he wins this pawn with the rook, then the rook is always stuck on that file because of the possibility of mate here. So yeah, a fantastic game by Fischer. Really, really brilliantly played, and attack on both sides of the board. Getting away with d5, getting away with c5, getting away with g5, king on d7, d6 to hold, e6 to hold everything up. Just a brilliant game. Brilliant game. It's difficult to believe that just 38 moves could contain so much. Brilliant attack on the king side, a brilliant attack on the queen side, a positional paralysis, a brilliant defensive effort fending off all aggressive play from his opponent with so little resources and unusual positioning of his pieces. King on e6, for example, it's just uh, I could go on for hours about how good this game was. Yeah, not the easiest game in the world to understand, but a good game nevertheless. Good game nevertheless. Yeah. Okay, don't forget to like, share, comment, and subscribe to my channel. Thanks. Bye.